Something new came to Minneapolis. It started as a whisper, a feeling in suburbs like Maple Grove and then Plymouth. People felt a change, a coldness in the air. These were not ordinary days. A new kind of deer was seen. Watching from the edges of the woods, their faces were wrong, terribly wrong. They stood too still. Their eyes were dark and empty, but they seemed to see everything, and they grinned. Oh, how they grinned! Their smiles were too wide, too knowing. Not like any animal should smile. A silent, chilling welcome. Or perhaps a warning. The first signs were small, a quick movement at twilight, a shadow in the backyard. That stayed too long. Children drew them, deer with big smiles. Parents said, just imagination. But the drawings felt cold. The unease grew day by day. A quiet fear took hold. Minneapolis started to listen. The whispers grew louder. The suburbs felt a tight knot of worry. People locked their doors a little sooner. They pulled their curtains shut. The grinning deer were not just animals. They felt like a story, a dark story, just beginning. The city waited. For what? No one knew. The land was not their only place. These deer, they liked the water, the many lakes of Minneapolis, Minnetonka, Lake Harriet, Calhoun. They would stand by the shore, just stand, and stare. Sometimes at the water, sometimes at the people, their grins reflected in the still surface. 2 smiles, twice the fear. They moved into the lakes, slowly, with a strange purpose. Not like deer usually swim, they waded deep. Sometimes they went under, then came up again, water streaming from them. Their fur dark and sleek, their grins seemed to drip with lake water. The lakes felt colder when they were near. Boaters saw things, dark shapes moving under their boats, too big to be fish. Sometimes they saw eyes, looking up from the deep dark water, faintly glowing. The grinning deer were in the lakes, living in them or haunting them. The water was no longer a friend. The lakes grew quiet. The birds sang less. The usual buzz of summer faded. There was only the sound of water and the sight of a deer with a terrible smile, watching, always watching, from the shore or from within the dark water. Minneapolis lakes held a new, cold secret. The Mississippi River starts here, a great wide road of water. It flows south past many towns, past many cities. What if the deer followed it? The idea was a cold stone in the gut. The river water could carry them, carry their strange, silent curse, south towards the unsuspecting. Imagine them floating in the dark, hidden by the night, past sleeping farms and quiet houses, towards St. Louis, towards New Orleans, cities full of life, unaware. The grinning deer, a slow, silent tide carried by the river's dark, old current. Stories began. From small towns down the river, a flash of something wrong. A deer seen at the water's edge, a deer that smiled too much. People talked. They said it was just a story, a local tale, but the descriptions matched. The grin, the empty eyes. The river knew. St. Louis, New Orleans, places of bright lights and loud music. What if the grinning deer came there, to the busy riverfronts, to the quiet green parks? The thought was a shadow, a cold whisper of what might be. The river tied them all to the spreading, grinning fear. The fear did not only flow south, it went north too. People saw them in Duluth, cold, windy Duluth, next to the great cold lake, Lake Superior, its icy waters, its rocky shores. The deer were there, grinning at the grey, angry waves, a sight that did not belong. Lake Superior's north shore, wild, empty, full of old trees, a good place for secrets, a good place for fear. The grinning deer looked right there. They came from the deep forest, stood on high rocks overlooking the water. Their smiles were a tear in the beautiful view. So wrong, so chilling. The danger was plain. Their grins were not of joy. They were a sign, a warning, a mouth pulled too wide, showing too much or nothing at all. Just the shape of a terrible smile. A smile that promised bad things. A smile that stayed in your mind long after the deer was gone. And their stares were deadly. They looked right at you, and you felt it. A deep cold, a frozen moment. Some said you saw your own fears reflected in their dark, empty eyes. The grinning deer were a true danger, a quiet, smiling end. Beware their smiles.